Messmer the Impaler. The Impaler is a demigod who is the supposed firstborn child of Queen Marika and was cursed from birth. A malevolent serpent, known as the Serpent of the Abyss, dwells within him, eating away at his flesh and spirit. Upon discovering this curse, Marika tried to cure him in numerous ways. However, none of them were successful, so she plucked out his right eyeball and placed a seal of grace in its stead in order to contain the abyssal serpent. In spite of all these efforts, her fear remained unquelled, so she sent Messmer on a never-ending crusade. The Shadow Realm, a land inhabited by the Hornsent, was his destination. This race had committed genocide against the shamans, basically ending Marika's entire bloodline, stuffing their bodies along with the bodies of criminals into jars of living flesh, misguided that sainthood would await, thus leaving Marika as the sole survivor. In an act of vengeance and pragmatism, Marika convinced her son that the Hornsent were a threat to her Golden Order, due to their faith in another outer god, thus sending him on a quest to purge the Hornsent, planning to abandon him thereafterward, taking care of two birds with one stone. In the Land of Shadows, Messmer led a grim campaign, accompanied by the outcasts of the realm he took into his army. Commander Gaius, who is a first-generation Albinauric, joined Messmer and his army of knights from noble families who had been disowned for their allegiance to Messmer. As brutal as he was, Messmer was a kind soul to those around him and inspired many of his soldiers and allies, one of whom is Rellana, to fight for his cause and to remain loyal to him until the bitter end. Despite being abandoned by his beloved mother, Messmer never stopped following her orders to purge the Hornsent, but made sure to take all the blame for the massacre of the Hornsent on himself, as we can read in the description of his armor. He also took in as many of the living jars stuffed with shamans inside his Shadow Keep to try and cure them. However, his efforts were in vain. Upon meeting the Tarnished, his heart is heavy with disbelief and sorrow over his mother's betrayal. Unable to accept that a graceless Tarnished was given the chance to become a lord, Messmer fights the Tarnished, and in a final, desperate act, he plucks out his remaining eye, breaking the seal and unleashing the abyssal serpent within him. This act revealed his curse to the Tarnished, who managed to defeat him. As the serpent consumed him, Messmer called out to his mother for a final time, cursing at her very being as his life was fading away. Rellana, the twin Moon Knight, is a former Carian princess and sibling to Rellana, Queen of the Full Moon. In her youth, she was trained as a sorceress under the wing of Count Emir, though he would later abandon his allegiance to lunar sorcery, thinking it was a stepping stone to more powerful celestial magic. In spite of his departure, Rellana's dedication to moon sorcery remained strong and unwavering. At some point in her life, Rellana gave up her title as a Carian princess to aid Messmer in his crusade, driven by loyalty, admiration, or perhaps love. Before she departed, she was gifted lustrous black hair by her sister Rellana as a symbol of their bond. Rellana fought fiercely in Messmer's crusade against the Hornsent, swiftly becoming the Sword of Messmer. Having fought alongside him allowed her to wield both lunar and flame magic, which is evident in her fight against the Tarnished as well as in her weapon. Commander Gaius plays a pivotal role in Messmer's army during the Holy Crusade against the Hornsent. Born as a first-generation Albinauric, which is a human-made lifeform, Gaius was born with both his legs paralyzed. In order to account for his immobility, Commander Gaius rides atop a boar, which he affectionately refers to as his other half. During his youth, Gaius was taught gravitational magic by the same Alabaster Lord who tutored young Radahn, which led to a fierce rivalry between the two. However, as fierce as it was, this rivalry was also very friendly, as Gaius was viewed as a brother by both Radahn and Messmer. This rivalry pushed both Gaius and Radahn to create powerful gravity attacks, illustrating what similar development they received from their common teacher. Being an Albinauric, Gaius was born under a curse and stigmatized just like Messmer was, due to the presence of the abyssal serpent inside him. Through this shared experience of living under a curse, a very strong bond was created between them. This mutual respect continued to build as they began pushing each other through their struggles, eventually becoming close friends, with Gaius rising into the position of commander in Messmer's army. In the crusade against the Hornsent, Gaius served as the leader of Messmer's men, guiding them through the brutal battles of the campaign. In spite of his physical limitations, his exceptional prowess in gravitational magic rendered him an invaluable asset on the battlefield. Divine Beast Dancing Lion. Among the Hornsent live horned warriors that are judged based on their skill in combat, and some are chosen to become Divine Beast Warriors. Among the Divine Beast Warriors, those who excel in Divine Invocation are selected to ascend to the role of Sculpted Keepers. In this role, They wear the sacred lion costume and are granted the high honor of performing the ritual of the lion dance. Looking really scary on the outside, the dancing lion is composed of two guys in a costume, one of whom is using his hands to adjust the lion's head and control its mouth. These sculpted keepers are considered to be heralds of the heavens, and the act of divine invocation, which is done through their lion dance, is believed to be an act of calling upon divinity. This divine invocation also serves as the source of their elemental power. Since they were of Hornsent descent, they were the primary targets of Messmer's genocide. This resulted in the use of the graceful lion dance, along with its control over wind, lightning, and frost, as a weapon and tool of war, instead of being used simply as a means of contacting divinity. The story of Midra is one of tragedy. Midra was one of many who tried to become the Lord of Frenzied Flame, but failed miserably, as he was too weak to fully develop. Becoming a Lord of Frenzied Flame meant taking on all of the torment, despair, sin, and every curse of the world and melting it all away. That in itself is a challenge proven too great to be overcome by the likes of Midra. Before being overtaken by the flame of frenzy, he was known as Sage Midra. Residing deep inside the abyssal woods, the great Sage Midra lived peacefully inside his mansion, along with his lady, Nanaya, and all of their servants. Eventually, all took a turn when he decided to follow the grim path of becoming a Lord of Chaos. This power could melt away everything, even the immortal spirits, which hold an incredibly important place in the Hornsent beliefs and culture. Becoming a Lord of Frenzy rendered Midra a great threat to the Hornsent, so they overran the mansion with inquisitors and tortured his servants, whose bodies can actually be found outside the house. With the Sword of Damnation, the Hornsent Inquisitors held an execution like no other, piercing Midra with the sword from the head down, with its golden barbs inflicting eternal agony. The only thing that kept him somewhat sane was what his lady Nanaya told him, to endure. So he did just that, and resisted the madness of the frenzied flame. As dear as she is to Midra, Nanaya's corpse can be found inside the mansion, clutching onto a spine that is believed to have belonged to Midra himself. Upon encountering the Tarnished and being pushed to his limits, he could no longer resist and let the flame of frenzy overtake him. Even though he initially lacked the strength to develop into a Lord of Frenzied Flame, the endless time spent enduring the pain took him to heights that would enable him to develop into a Lord of Frenzied Flame for the duration of the fight against the Tarnished. Bayle The Dread. The story of Bayle is one of treachery. A long time ago, the Dragon Lord Placidus Axe reigned as king of the dragons and drakes alike. Encouraged by his beliefs that he deserved to be the rightful ruler, Bayle cowardly attacked Placidus Axe, which led to an all-out war between the dragons and the drakes. The battle was of such large scale that it resulted in grievous injuries on both sides. Bayle lost one of his legs and had his wings torn apart in such a way that the right side is completely cut off and the left shows his bones protruding out. As injured as he was, Bayle did a large amount of damage to the Dragon Lord, who is visibly missing 3 of his 5 heads. 2 of the heads have remained stuck, biting into the neck of the treacherous drake. After starting to feel increasing pressure, afraid of losing his life, Bayle cowardly fled to the Shadow Realm, along with the rest of the drakes, where he reigned as Bayle the Dread. Because of this, dragons that are loyal to Placidus Axe, along with the warriors of the Dragon Communion, started to hunt for Bayle, resulting in him and the drakes becoming potential sacrifices for those who wish to consume their hearts, which would give them powers. And it seems that there was even a judge of character among the Dragon Communion warriors. The Dragon Man, who as the name implies is a half-human, half-dragon warrior, would actually judge other warriors to determine whether they are worthy to challenge Bayle. Upon proving his worth to the Dragon Man, the Tarnished is awarded the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana, a weapon made with a sole purpose in mind, to kill dragons and drakes. Another noteworthy foe of Bayle the Dread is Egon the Dragon Hunter, who longs for a fight against the foul beast. Found at the foot of the jagged peak, on top of which Bayle resides, Egon sees the strength of the Tarnished firsthand, and is driven to aid the Tarnished in the battle against Bayle. Upon slaying the beast, the Tarnished has the option to eat Bayle's heart at the grand altar of Dragon Communion, although by doing so, the Tarnished risks having their body and mind devoured by the essence of Bayle. Metyr is the mother of all 2 fingers and also the finger creepers. This entity is somewhat of a daughter of the Greater Will, which is an outer god in possession of a vast influence over the world, and maybe even the universe. This outer god sent a golden star to the lands between, which later turned out to be the Elden Beast. However, it was not there first. The original shooting star sent by the Greater Will was Metyr herself. She was able to communicate with the Greater Will by receiving signs from beyond the microcosm. Eventually, these signs ceased coming and were never again to be seen. Metyr remained broken and abandoned by the Greater Will. In spite of this betrayal, she kept producing the 2 fingers in high hopes of finding a message that just didn't exist. With that said, it now becomes much clearer why the Golden Order is faulty. Queen Marika herself, who is literally the god of the lands between and the founder of the Golden Order, was guided by these two fingers, who she believed were communicating with the greater will. But they were just spouting nonsense, which means everything that the Golden Order was built upon is just false. This secret is the one Sir Gideon Ofnir learned that drove him to fight the Tarnished, whom he actually told that the two fingers had lost their way a long time ago. Along with Sir Gideon Ofnir, there was another who knew. This person was Count Emir. Upon realizing that everything was foul from its roots, he decided to take it upon himself to become the new Mother of Fingers, so he could take on the role of communicating with the greater will. He believed that only that way could the world be redeemed. In spite of his efforts, his plans never came to be realized, as he was cut down by the Tarnished upon discovering his plans. Romina, Saint of the Bud. The story of Romina is that of a victim. She is the saint of a church built deep within the ancient ruins of Rao. The foundation of her religious beliefs was a bud. Eventually, this faith and ideals that differentiated from those of Marika's Golden Order made Romina's church a target of Messmer's holy crusade against those who lacked the grace of gold. During Messmer's crusade, Romina's church was completely burned to the ground, leaving her as the sole survivor. Even after having her church burned down to the core, Romina's dedication to the Holy Bud remained as strong as ever, so she held onto it in hopes of saving it from the flames, thus allowing the bud to later become her weapon. Remaining in solitude with nothing left, she encountered a twisted divine element that she weaved into the Scarlet Rot, adopting it as her own. This laid the foundations for the Scarlet Rot religion by replacing all of the values that the bud stood for with their rotten counterparts. This change in beliefs resulted in the malformation of her surroundings, as can be seen by all the buds and creatures that are visibly tainted with rot. These changes even caused some of the species to mutate and grow to extreme sizes, as can be seen with the spiders and scorpions found across the ancient ruins of Rao. Romina also adopted all sorts of creatures. She brought in the deserted pests as servants and even went a step further by embracing the scarlet butterflies who were abandoned by millennia. The Putrescent Knight is a very mysterious boss, about whom only a single thing is known, and that is his purpose, to protect Saint Trina. In an age long before the Erd Tree, people practiced a ritual of burning the bodies of certain individuals, which resulted in the creation of a ghost flame. These flames were strong, however, they created vengeful spirits and tainted the flesh of the corpses. A specific clump of this tainted flesh was lucky enough to sap down from one or multiple of the coffins in the area where Saint Trina resided. This tainted flesh somehow managed to drink from Saint Trina's nectar. This single act alone granted it eternal rest, and from that point onward, it served as Saint Trina's knight, protecting her from any intruders. Another mysterious boss is the Scadutree Avatar. Resembling a dark sunflower, the Scadutree Avatar mimics the twisted nature of the Shadow Tree. Similar to the Erd Tree Avatars, which arose during the shattering of the Elden Ring, the Scadutree Avatar exists to protect the Shadow Tree itself, just as the Erd Tree Avatars protect their respective minor Erd Tree. The fact that it resides at the very base of the Shadow Tree serves as further proof that its ultimate purpose is to protect the Shadow Tree. However, there is one thing that makes this avatar unique and exceptionally important, and that is its possession of Miquella's broken Great Rune, which he cast out on the path leading to godhood. Upon being defeated by the Tarnished, the avatar leaves Miquella's broken rune behind, and it later serves as the ace up the Tarnished sleeve in the final battle, allowing them to resist Miquella's charm. Radahn, Consort of Miquella. Even though Radahn is the one who faces the Tarnished in battle, he is only a husk under the control of Miquella, devoid of any free will. Miquella the Kind is Millennia's twin brother, an Empyrean cursed with eternal youth who has the ability to charm others, manipulating them into doing what he desires. His goal is to be reborn as a god. Walking on the path of ascension, he abandoned parts of his body throughout the Shadow Realm, most notably his alter ego and loving part of his body, Saint Trina, who, upon meeting the Tarnished, told them that they needed to kill Miquella at all costs, not allowing him to ascend to godhood as it would become a cage for him. After using Messmer's kindling to burn the sealing tree, the Tarnished gained access to the Tower of Shadow, which hosted a divine gateway where Miquella intends to follow in his mother's footsteps, ascending to godhood. In spite of abandoning every part of his existence that kept him mortal to become a god, he still lacked a Lord Consort. His consort of choice was General Radahn. However, he never agreed to consensually become his consort. To set his plan into motion, Miquella sent his sister Millennia to kill Radahn. Although she failed miserably, by nuking Caelid with her Scarlet Aeonia, she still managed to reduce Radahn to a mindless husk. But even in this lesser form of his, he still managed to hold a firm grasp on the stars, putting Miquella's plans to a halt until he gets killed by the Tarnished, finally setting his soul free, though not for long. Harnessing the ability of his charm, Miquella used Mohg and his connection to the Formless Mother, who is an outer god, to enter the Shadow Realm, although his plans for Mohg did not end there. After having the Lord of Blood killed by the Tarnished, Miquella's followers abducted Mog's corpse so it could serve as the vessel in which he could resurrect Radahn's soul under his control. Succeeding in his plans and ascending to godhood with the help of his consort, Radahn, Miquella's victory is short-lived, as his desired age of compassion never came to be, for both he and Radahn fell to the blade of the Tarnished. Ironically enough, it was the wish of his alter ego, Saint Trina, which was fulfilled by the Tarnished who acquired the remembrance of a god and a lord.